the last session, Tom, I realized I never said anything about Saturday school or evening school. And they're very important operations of the Columbus College of Art and Design. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Saturday school. When, I don't know when I should say, when I was asked to take over the school, and I had refused at the time because, you know, the story went, I didn't want to spend the rest of my time in Columbus behind the desk. But in fact, you know, that's what happened, you know. I should have kept my big mouth shut. I would have been all right. But we had a Saturday school. Now, the thing to remember is the 6 through 10-year-olds were allowed to go to Saturday school. See, were allowed, the word is allowed, to go to Saturday school for, who were children of gallery members. If you were not a gallery member, you could not go to Saturday school from 6 through 10. 11 through 18, you didn't have to be a gallery member. See. Anyway, when we took over the school, and incidentally, the little bit of money that came in for the 6 through 10, we used to call it the gallery section. Whatever little money came, we sent it over to the museum, and the 11 through 18, we kept at the school because that was theoretically the school Saturday school, you know. Well, we were left with hardly any students, even in the children classes. You name it, I can't even tell you why. They were not there anymore. You know, the 6 through 10, I don't think we had more than 8 or 9 students. You know, at any rate, there were a little group in the 6 through 10. These were gallery members' children on Saturday school. Not only, it's below a dozen. And the 11 through 18 were not much more. About 10, 9, 10, something like that. We had a good teacher, very good teacher in the 6 through 10. That's Richard, what is his name? It'll come to me in a minute. Richard, somebody. Anyway, he was an excellent elementary art teacher. See, the children 6 through 10. He was an expert at it, very, very good. And there again, you know, he was a product of the large university, and a product could have been a product of any of the colleges because there was art education. See, art education is when they teach they do how to teach children. See, art instruction, professional art instruction, is when you teach people to become industrial designers, interior designers, advertising designers, illustrators. See, that's what we dominate in, and fine artists, you see. That's anyway, the 6 through 10 was under Richard Bowers. See, it came back to me, Richard Bowers. He was a wonderful teacher. He loved the kids, you know. He did an excellent job. And I talked to Dick. I said, Dick, let's see if we can get more enthusiasm. That's about all the instruction I gave him because I knew he was a good teacher. See, if you need more supplies, let me know. We'll get them, you know. We don't want to make them feel that we're so poor we don't have enough paper for them to, or paints to paint on, to paint with. And he says, okay, Joe, fine. And he got to work and things began to improve. It was slow, but still began to improve. The 11 through 18, now mind you, I was already working 5 days a week, including evenings, we didn't have anybody. And I had an idea. I said, 11 through year olds, I felt some of the elementary school teachers didn't take to this too easily at first. I said, well, I'm going to get some of the brightest kids in a professional school, later on, and maybe I'll use them. Anyway, we didn't have anybody. We only had 8 or 9 kids, so I said, I looked around. We didn't have any teachers. I said, okay, I'll take it. I didn't have any experience of teaching high school, but I had this idea. I said, I'm going to give these kids the real stuff. On an elementary level, but I'm giving them the real stuff. Oh, Tom, they loved it. Inside of a couple of years, we went to 48 students, 11 through 18. And Bob was doing his bit. He was getting more students. So he told me, I need an assistant. I said, well, go ahead, Dick. I said, get an assistant. That's what we want to do. And still, his side was still just gallery member children, see? But it was slow because they had to be gallery members' children, see? Ours began to blossom pretty fast. And I got an assistant after 30. I got an assistant. After 50, I got 2 assistants. First thing you know, we have about 4 or 5 teachers. Now, my assistants were the top students at the school, the art school, the professional school. They were excellent draftsmen, painters, designers, the whole work. And I told these young people, they were students at that time was Columbus Art School. I said, let's give these kids something. Let's give them color, like you do in your regular classes. Only simplify it, but give them some guts. Give them something exciting, see. So anyway, that was the attitude. That was the philosophy. See, enthusiasm on 6 through 10. See, and then professional touches, 11 through 18-year-olds. Well, the teachers that were criticized, the way we were handling the 11 through, they stopped their criticism because they saw the development. They said, by golly, they're doing something. First thing you know, by the end of 3 years, we tripled or quadrupled the size of the Saturday school. And we got more teachers to, then we gave Mr. Bowers became the supervisor of the elementary, of the museum group. And I was already something, so they didn't make me anymore. I didn't want it anyway. See. But, yes, I did do one thing. My wife was a pretty good artist, and she was bugging the hell out of me trying to get a job teaching. She was very good. She was an excellent children artist, watercolors, terrific. And apparently she was a good teacher, see. So I put her in 11 through 14 because she just still, not quite. Mr. Bowers knew what to do with it up to 10. And my wife, Vasa, she's doing a pretty good job. Sometimes she get a little bit, lax a little bit easy, I said, no, give them more good stuff, And she did. And her classes began to grow. But don't forget, she's a professional artist. See? And my class began to grow to finally say, I can't handle it. The school was growing. The regular school was growing. I said, I can't go on with all this, 3 schools. Besides, the evening school was growing too. See? So I said, well, anyway, and this was during Mr. Young's regime in the museum. Like I said, we get along beautifully with him. And he was always, as I said, he is a museum director, but he was always there to assist. And we would take our children over to the museum. There was never a hassle, never. And the kids, the students, never touched anything, never stole anything. See, I say that because oftentimes, if anything was lost, right away they had a tendency of blaming students, but nothing. There was no such thing. See? Well, so we went on and on, and we got, finally I said, gee, I had to get a supervisor for the 11 through 18, see. What did I get? I don't know. Yeah, Mr. Bowers was getting too busy. He wanted to teach. I got Rietenbach. Hans Rietenbach came over to take over the 6 through 10, and then the 11 through 18 to take my place over. I shouldn't forget these people, but I thought there was someone, Rietenbach and, O'Connor. He's one of the people at COSI now. See, he's a graduate from CCAD, but he's still a supervisor of Saturday school down there at Mr. O'Connor, yeah. And anyway, we got supervisors, and the school began to grow. We would meet only a couple of times a year between Rietenbach and the Saturday school, for 6 through 10, and Mr. O'Connor on the 11 through 18. See, the schools are growing. Well, anyway, at the end of Mr. Young's regime, he retired. I believe Mr. Bishop came on. See, I can mention his name. Mr. Bishop came on. Things went on all right for a couple of years, you see. But I don't know. His philosophical attitudes and mine never coincided, Anyway, I think I've expressed myself about those things at other times in other videos. But he called me over to his office, I believe. Bud Bishop called me over to his office. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll come over, don't worry, I'll be over. I was over there in 10 minutes, something like that. I went over to his office. He leaned back in a chair. He says, we don't want to bother with Saturday school anymore. This came out of his mouth. I was a little bit surprised. I said, it's a little bit of income for the museum. Why do you want to let it go for? But I didn't say anything, see, because it was difficult to talk to him, I spoke Roman, he spoke Greek, as far as I was concerned. We just didn't get along at all. I said, all right, you want to give up your Saturday school? I said, okay, but I said, we'll take it over. The school will take it over. Don't worry about it. I walked out of his office, and we started to put two and two together. It didn't take us very long, by the way. She says, okay, from now on, we've made a brochure. You don't have to be the 6 through 10 children does not have to be a gallery member's child. I said, the 6 through 10, we allow anybody who wants to come to the art college or be near the museum, you see. I said, anybody's allowed to come. See, so we opened the doors for all the 6 through 10-year-olds to Saturday school. They didn't have to be anything. All they had to do was be human beings. That's all. And they started to come in droves. They started to come in. And of course, the same thing. We were doing very well on the 11 through 18-year-olds. They were really increasing like crazy. So here we are, he said at the same time, I might as well put this down too, because it's kind of important in the history of the school and museum. He said, we used to give a report, the school progress report. Once a month, we take it over to the museum, because they had a monthly report, something like that. He didn't want any part of the school at all. So he got the school communication completely off from the museum. He didn't want any part of the Saturday school, nothing. I said, this is Bud Bishop's request. We had nothing to do with it. That's the way it came off. Well, I have to say, we opened the doors for human beings. They all came in. And now they're coming in by truckloads. There are 3 buses coming out of Westerville and above on children on Saturday school. You know, I was surprised why they had to be Saturday gathering members anyway. You know, there's so many nice kids. You know, they can use that visual arts education. See, now that was that's another bit of history that I don't think it personally. I thought that was rather stupid on the part of the museum. It wasn't smart, you know. You just don't do things like that.
When did they do that? What year? Do you remember approximately? About time?
Well, Mr. Young left in let's see. Must have been in 76, 77, something like that. Well, he did that, and he can deny if he wants to, but that's the truth. People can deny anything. You know, I was amazed to talk about anything. I was amazed at how people, how can people turn stories around to benefit their own point of view. It's a shame the way they do it, you know, but they'll do it.
While you're on the topic of Saturday school, one thing I wasn't clear on was when Saturday school actually came about, and what was your thinking? Why did you decide to have a Saturday school?
I don't know, because it was there before we came. They had a Saturday school before we came out of New York, see, with my 2 other friends. See.